Everybody, thank you very much for the opportunity to be part of this town hall. We felt it was necessary that we have an open forum and discuss everything that is on our mind. It is going to be semi-structured. Lisa will jump in wherever necessary. We were thinking about the following. We would like to give a short overview from what is going on in the industry. Everybody follows the news, of course, but what does that really mean for our clientele, especially if we're talking from an inbound tour operator perspective. So. Yes, we all know that fortunately some of the areas are opening up to a certain extent. That is an absolute necessity before international travel can take place, and that is fortunately, as we said, happening. However, we are still dealing, of course, with two major issues. And the first major issue is the travel ban. That's the inbound travel ban. We all saw that approximately 9 days ago, the administration was indicating that something was forthcoming about lifting that, or especially for countries that were making progress. However, we have not seen that yet. But if I can give you the international perspective, and then that is very important as well. Many of you know that, of course, the EU and especially the EU countries themselves have also outbound travel restrictions. It's a little bit confusing what's happening in the markets. The EU is opening up its inbound borders, if you want to see it like that, as of July 1st for the largest part, and individual countries will make decisions on whether it is advisable or permissible, varying from country to country, whether their citizens can travel. That can be confusing because the situation is different per country. For example, the Danish government has made it pretty clear that they do not recommend or allow, to a certain extent, any international travel aside from going to Norway or to Germany till the end of August. So effectively, in the USA, we cannot expect any Danish clients until the end of August, unless circumstances change. Now, this is an extreme example. There are other countries that are saying, well, we don't recommend it. There's a third group of countries that is saying, well, there is an advice, be careful, but we don't prohibit it. The practical limitation is quite often, if there is a negative travel advisory, effectively you can expect that international travel from that country will not take place. Has to do a lot with liabilities of tour operators, has to do a lot with travel insurance. If there is in some countries a negative outbound travel advisory, then travel insurance would not cover any eventualities, so that effectively then stops that travel. So those are the limitations that we're looking for to be lifted. We are seeing some things moving in the right direction, but we have not seen the actual state of play yet taking place. Of course, everybody is also aware of what's happening south of us, especially for the Latin American markets. The issues in Latin America, Brazil especially, but also other countries like Peru, they are a little bit behind in the curve of COVID moving through that area. So everybody is aware of the travel ban also from Brazil, and it is expected that that would be lifted at a later stage than perhaps Europe would be going. On the other hand, also Asia is ahead of the curve and will be able to travel to the US if issues with airline rights are resolved, but that looks to be the case. In this time, it is very important that we display our value and the value as an organization to everybody. I think it is, as inbound operators, we are keeping very close contact with our clients, but as an inbound industry, it is very important that even that in the very short term inbound travel from Europe is not taking place, that we don't lose sight on the importance of that. We all know the statistics about the value of inbound travel. We all are aware of how an inbound traveler has a different spend, different stays at hotels, and a greater contribution to the economy than, for example, a domestic client on average, so that we keep that in mind and that we don't forego the opportunities. We are very aware that many DMOs are of course primarily focusing at this moment to get the US domestic traveler back in their destinations, which is very understandable. But I think that we as inbound operators and as an inbound industry can be very helpful in keeping the contact with the international wholesalers. I can assure you from what I've seen that the demand for coming back to the United States from our clientele, and I'm speaking to many other clients and colleagues, is absolutely there. It will return. It will return strongly. The USA is a destination that is a bucket list destination for many clients, and that will certainly not be forgotten. We see very good results with the whole campaign that we as an industry have been working on from postpone, don't cancel. So many groups that were supposed to have traveled in the past couple of months have been completely rebooked to next year. So that is very encouraging. So we see there that there is an enormous amount of pent-up demand, and even with the expectation that economic circumstances might be depressed for a little while in the source countries because of all the different support systems with guaranteed salaries and the economic impact of COVID in many European countries is not affecting the consumers as much as it could be here in the US. Those are very encouraging signs, and that is what I would like to share with you at this moment. Garrett, do you have any additions to that, perhaps from market insights?
Yeah, well, hello everybody, good to see you, and so many faces. I'm happy to see that so many of you guys have taken the time to call in. I really wanted to maybe add 2 points, Peter. First, certainly what I'm doing and what we are ATI are doing very actively is looking what the airlines are doing. Ultimately, we are very dependent, of course, on what activity there will be from a perspective. And it is very encouraging to see that there is that many of the airlines are opening their routes again, hesitantly so, but there is definitely some movement there. So that is usually a precursor of what is coming on a larger scale. So that is probably the most indicative item that we can follow on a day-to-day basis. We're also looking very carefully what's happening in the UK. Specifically, the UK has a ban, a quarantine requirement for anybody coming into the UK, a 14-day quarantine that is still in place at this moment, that effectively, in our opinion, will essentially cancel out anything happening in that market until that ban is lifted. Because, you know, any UK person, let's say, wants the US open first and foremost, but if the US would be open and a UK visitor would come here, they would then have to quarantine themselves for 14 days when they get back. So that is not very realistic that will effectively happen. 2 other points I wanted to add to that. I think it's very encouraging to see that what's happening, for instance, in Las Vegas. I'm sure you guys have followed and you have seen the activity that's happening in Las Vegas once they decided to open up the hotels, and the booking activity for Vegas has been enormous. One, obviously, because that is really the only people that can travel at the moment. But the demand for Vegas as a destination for forward bookings has been noticeable and very noticeable. There is a concern, and I think Gary and Peter already hinted at that. What's happening with the national parks, and that is something that we will be talking about with a work group that is driven out of U.S. travel, and is very necessary because a lot of us have motor coach escorted tours series that go into the parks. There are fly drives that are going into the parks. There are all kinds of reservation systems that are being talked about, and we want to make sure that we keep our finger on the pulse as it comes to that. Let me see, there was one other thing I wanted to add. No, I think that covers it, Peter, from what I wanted to add to the points you had made.
Are there, at this moment, because we have a number of different topics that we would like to discuss, are there any questions, suggestions regarding what we spoke about now that you would like to get our insights from, either from us as operators or from us as an organization?
Peter, this is Robert. Just an observation, it might be helpful for IITA. Just wanted to let you know that Grand Canyon has reopened day before yesterday. They are allowing us as small group operators into the park, but no more than 10 people. So that is some limitations that are being placed. So if you're 10 or under, they are allowing you in there when you have your CUA licenses.
Yeah. Yeah, at this moment, indeed, we are seeing that the limitations for motor coaches are absolutely still there. This is a very fluid situation. This can change and will change from day to day. So the moment when we talk about it, this is almost outdated already. And these are the baby steps necessary to move forward. As a result, we all know that July, August, September, the whole third quarter is extremely important and represents the busiest quarter of inbound travel to all the destinations in the US, except for winter sports destinations. Yes, everybody is very closely looking at bookings, how much of the July bookings are still going to take place. Again, from country to country, we say that because the desire is there to have as many of the bookings that were there already to take place. Everybody knows that the lion's share of all the bookings for July were made already, or were essentially on the books already, at least 3/4. It depends a little bit on the market. By the time that this came around in March. So it is correct that we don't see new bookings at all. Yeah, sliver here and there coming in, but the amount of existing bookings is extremely substantial. Operators try to hang on to these bookings as long as possible. And not until they are really forced because of flight changes or travel bans or local laws in the country of origin. When they have to cancel the arrangements, they will try to do that. So be assured that we as companies and my colleague companies as well, we only cancel, of course, what needs to be canceled, and the desire to go is definitely there once it is possible. So that is important to know. It creates a lot of extra work, but that is, of course, what we're doing. Any
Peter,
other?
if I may,
yeah.
I just wanted to add, we're also working very closely and talking actively with the people at U.S. Travel. I think Peter hinted at that.
Garrett, I think we lost you. Well, we'll try to get him back, but yeah.
If I think that Gerrit was going to talk about national parks and U.S. travel being involved in that as well. Everybody knows what the leadership role that IITA has been taking in this. We are, of course, the organization, somebody wants to put it very eloquently, we are where the rubber meets the road. We are the organization with the three pillars of our organization is that we are creating the product, we are promoting it, and we're operating it. And we're fulfilling it collectively. And I think that the relevance of what we can do nowadays is actually even more than before. We are creating these programs, and of course, as inbound operators, we work with the partners that we know. We work with the partners that help us, so that we can help DMOs and suppliers as well. And I cannot stress enough, and I'll come back at the very end of the town hall on how important it is to keep this mission moving forward. Gerrit, are you back?
Yes, I am. Sorry, I don't know what happened. So what I was trying to say is that we are trying to work with U.S. travel specifically in the sense that U.S. travel has been extremely active in working with the government to try and make sure that travel gets the proper attention, and they've been doing a phenomenal job with it. However, the focus has quite clearly been primarily on domestic travel, and understandably so, because obviously, as we can see now, that is where things are happening first. What we are trying to do, however, is keep on stressing the importance of the international visitation and the power that it has, the importance that it has for the economy of this country. And we believe that IITA, in particular, can play a very active role in that perspective, that we keep on stressing the importance of the international visitors to the United States.
If there are no other remarks, then we would like to move on to the next subject. Yesterday, oh, sorry.
Peter, I'm sorry. Yeah, this is Gloria. I think, yeah, sorry to actually add on a little bit about our market. Well, I just want to update everybody actually what we've been doing. Yeah, we know that actually currently, as what Gerrit has been mentioning, the direction seems to be more on the domestic travelings promotion. But for us, because being an inbound tour operator, that is actually our main business. So what we have been actually working on our Asia Pacific market is, in the last actually is like a month and a half since April, we have been actually working on a webinar. So we have been actually have a weekly webinar actually for our market, all in different languages and all in different actually like person in charge, you know, for those markets. And I just want to actually let everybody knows that, you know, the feedback has been very overwhelming. And we already run into our 5th week actually on the webinar. You know, even though that we're not really seeing any of the bookings coming back yet, especially for, you know, the next coming actually, I would say 6 months. But we are actually already getting a lot of interest for the building a new itineraries for next year. And everything is gearing actually in 2021 right now. What we actually are now going into a little bit more in-depth actually on our marketing side is we are putting actually also some of the DMO, try to be also be in contact with a lot of DMOs, try to actually like to be included also in our webinar, you know, especially when they represent the destination, it is actually more persuasive actually for our overseas clients or our partners to really see what is actually going on. And in addition, every week we always have an update of what is actually on the new normals in US. So like I said, I want to share with everybody actually how Asia part of this segments. This is actually what we're doing. We are actually also really competing with other destinations like other countries. So this is actually what we have been working. So since we are, you know, IITA, actually, we have a lot of members, majority actually say, you know, a lot of DMO. I would also encourage that we are able to work together and also with US travel associations too. Yeah, that is all I want to, you know, kind of update and share with everybody.
Thank you very much for the update on the region and what specifically what you're doing as well. We would like to, because we have limited time, we would like to move over to the next subject, and the subject that has been already partially discussed yesterday by email, and that's the summit. The board members are aware of this already. We are of course facing what we need to do with summit in 2021, and within the executive committee already for the past 2 months, 3 months, we have had concerns. And that was expressed also to the board, and essentially what we're recommending, especially also in light of the fact that we have limited staff available, is that we do not hold the summit in 2021 at the original planned date. The concept is that we are doing this in 2022, so basically postpone. That is all subject to availability and conditions from the availability of the dates. But we are extremely aware of the importance of meeting in person, and this is a people organization. This is an organization where interaction between us is leading to creativity and results. The fact that if we would not let the summit take place in 2021 does not mean that we should not meet in person. That is not mutually exclusive at all. On the opposite, we have been talking about combining with other events. One of the premier events is IPW. We have always an event at IPW already, the reception. There are a lot of concepts being floated. How can we expand that? How can we make that valuable for everybody? So there are concepts also out there for regional meetups, like we've had that, but on a heavier level. Keep in mind that everybody is very aware that we have changed the organization, and we are running now at a complete different kind of budget because of our disassociation with AI. Therefore, we have to be extremely careful on the money we collect and be spent, and the budgets for many of the sponsors and of also for attending events like a summit, especially that early in the year, from the indications that we have received from many of you, that would be extremely limited, and that would potentially put the association in a very precarious situation what budget is concerned. And that is something that we as association should not take upon ourselves. However, I would like to stress that once again, that if a summit would not take place at that date, that does not mean that we would not meet in person. And because I believe that is very important. There are concepts out there perhaps later in the year, but then we would have issues in 2022. Everything is being evaluated, and the need for meeting in person and creating that environment that makes our association so unique is definitely recognized. That is an introduction that I would like to bring forward here. Is there, Gary, do you want to add something to that, or Gary?
No, I think maybe the one thing I wanted to add that we really want to, once we are able to do that, we definitely want to encourage having events locally and get together locally, regionally, We all thrive of having these face-to-face interactions, and we absolutely want to encourage that as much as we possibly can.
Are there any?
Yeah, if I could say a few words, because I have to jump off. I'm actually late to a 2:30 call. But yeah, I think, for IPW next year, we need a few more months to get people back to work. There's some people still furloughed and attractions and hotels still closed. But once we get everyone back to work, we really want to spend some more time surveying folks this fall of what they want out of IPW this year. I think the past few years, money's been flowing everywhere, private events, spending a ton on their booth. That's not going to be a priority in 21. And to me, really, the most important thing is getting people back together, really reuniting the industry, reuniting the world. So my hunch is that education is going to be really important. Health and safety is going to be important. So I'd love to work with IATA, but also other regional associations who have to cancel this year too. I'm sure everyone's heard Go West and Travel South are not happening. And now, with us not doing January, I really think it's the most important just to get everyone together again. And maybe there's different tracks that different associations can do to educate, the suppliers and the international buyers and so forth. So give us a few months to kind of see what people need, get everyone back to work is really important. Obviously at U.S. Travel Association, we are doing a really big effort to get domestic going again. Obviously, we need to get domestic before we can get international. So there's a lot that we're doing on the back end just to get the pieces moving together. But I really think there's a lot of opportunity just to kind of really think about what we all want to get out of IPW next year. Fingers crossed that we actually have an IPW next year, because if this is trickling, if the dominoes are still falling leading up to May of next year, we all have bigger problems than, attending and holding trade shows. But we've got to kind of hold faith there that we will be meeting. And I've heard a lot of folks say that they're hoping by then they'll be able to do international travel again, they'll be able to do marketing again. So let's see how we can make it a more inclusive IPW, maybe a little less glitz than we've seen in the past. And so let's get people together and doing business again.
Thank you very much for your encouraging words there. We, you know the group that we have over here. We have plenty of ideas. And we have plenty of suggestions, and we're really looking forward to see how we can serve the industry at large, because it is very clear our mission is very closely aligned with the general mission from US Travel as well. And I think that especially if we're getting to practicalities, we can do a lot of things that benefit everybody, and that's the only kind of cooperation that we would like to see. And we will be in touch. Thank
Absolutely.
you. Thank
Sorry
you.
I can't stay. Get you guys
Okay.
next time.
Thank you. Is there, are there any other comments about Summit at this moment?
Peter, this is Benjamin from San Diego. Just wanted to say, obviously, we are hoping to see everybody in February, but certainly we want to respect the wishes of the group and the association and whatever is best for everybody. So we'll certainly go along whatever path is decided, and if it's decided that Summit does need to be postponed, we'll look at 2022 and hope to have everyone out then.
We would like to see the opportunity to do so, and we will definitely have the interest of making that happen. And there are some logistics that we have to take care of, but it is the full intention to do that, and we'll definitely be in touch. And thank you for your words of encouragement. Very much appreciated.
I second that. Yeah.
Any other remarks? No? Okay. Then we would like to move over to the next topic. We know Jennifer Ackerson with the Steps to Success program is still going strong, and it is very important for everybody to realize, especially in the time of limited budgets, of DMOs, but also hotel companies, that a Step to Success program is a very good investment at an extremely low price point compared to participating in international trade shows. And I would encourage everybody to see what they can do. Many webinars are taking place. There is a special session for DMOs taking place on June 23rd, I saw. I'm quite sure that Lisa will maybe send a little reminder about that out again, that we can make sure that I would recommend everybody to take a very good look at the opportunities there, because with a small investment, minimal investment, you can get your local members ready for the international markets, that they understand what it is, what the value is, and in cooperation, of course, with inbound operators and of course the suppliers in the area, this is a great opportunity to make sure that you're still relevant in the international market without a big investment in participating in direct trade shows, if that would not be in the budget anymore, or there would not be the staff to do that anymore. We have there are many other activities as well taking place. We heard some remarks that people are getting a little bit zoomed out or zoomed in. Yes. It only goes to show, I see that a little bit different. There is the urge to meet in person again. So if this is what we have at the moment, and we will try to make it in person as soon as feasible. But we're also looking at matters like, for example, connectivity. At Summit, there is the technology task force. Maybe some of you attended some of the meetings. There are some very interesting discussions going on. In the background, there are major conversations going on in optimizing distribution, and much of it is very technologically inclined, but it is also a redefinition of the unclarities that have been taking place in the past. If I refer back to those of you who have attended some of the sessions that I spoke at, is the confusion between giving retailers wholesale rates is being addressed in this as well. This time we're seeing the distribution and tour operating are looked at very carefully, and the fact that a party and an entity is very large doesn't mean that they are in the proper part of the distribution column, and but neither does it mean that if you don't add value that you're entitled to a high discount. So technology will be creating quite some opportunities there. We have, of course, as you know, the OTA, the Open Travel Alliance. I'm not talking about online travel agents. So the Open Travel Alliance that is addressing quite some of those opportunities. There's much more to come. That is also part of the education part that we will keep on following. And the goal of the association is to share information with all members so that you can determine whether you want to get into that direction or not, and to give an as open and neutral kind of base package of information so that you can make your own decisions. And sharing that information from operator side, from supplier side, and even from DMO side is very important in that. We are going to have the Inbound Insider pretty soon coming your way as well. We are that was supposed to be have been distributed at IPW, and that will be coming your way. The magazine is should be available soon, and it is it available on the website already pretty soon, right, Lisa? It should be coming soonish.
Right.
So,
It should be up hopefully next week. It is on Premier Travel Media's site already.
Okay.
And I can send anybody a link to the digital copy if you'd like to see it ahead of time. But we should have it up by next week.
Okay, great. Are there any questions, remarks about the subjects that we just...
Peter, this is Gabe. Hello.
Hey, Gabe.
Hello, everyone. Quick question about the Inbound Insider. What are the plans for distributing it, since we don't have IPW this year?
That's a great question. We always distribute it digitally to international buyers that we have collected email addresses from at different trade shows, and for example, the IPW list and a combination of lists that we get from other trade shows. We will, of course, if there are any shows that do take place internationally, we have had them at La Cita, ITB, WTM, of course, IPW, Go West in the past. And if any of those ITB or WTM, I guess, are the ones that would be questionable at this point, happen, we will still have the hard copies, the printed copies there as well. But the primary distribution will be digital. And we are actually working and talking to Premier Travel Media about list development process and project to where we can really, make our list broader and bigger, and making sure that it's going into multiple markets. So far, the biggest base of that distribution list has been the IPW buyer list. Again, with some of these smaller ones supplementing it, but hopefully we can make that more robust, as we definitely need that now.
WTM announced that they're going ahead as planned.
Oh, did they? I hadn't seen that.
The first week in November.
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
Well, it'll be there then, for sure. Thank you.
We have to carry it over.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions, remarks, comments?
I think Carolyn has a question.
Okay, trying to unmute myself. Hi, everyone. I'm Carolyn Beamster with Shoptime Play USA, and what a rough week with Go West canceling and then Travel South, and hearing this news. But Peter, I really appreciate your 100% focus on the whole purpose of this is the face-to-face and understanding all the constraints. But going with your suggestion of maybe some of these regional programs, wondering if we could take that to another level of actually forming regional groups that would be chaired by one supplier and one buyer. I remember years ago, I've been a longtime supporter, and some of you may remember the events we used to host every year at South Street Seaport in New York City. And just doing those kinds of networking events or educational events, but being able to get together with a smaller group, and hopefully we'll be able to shortly, and then getting our own groups, let's say on LinkedIn, and then sharing what one region is doing with all the other regions. And some of us might be able to even travel to some other region and do a face-to-face, because that way the groups would still be smaller and might be more doable. But I really like this whole focus on, for now, the regional concept that we might be able to get a lot out of that, and until at least we can all get together as one big group. So anything I can help, I'd be happy to.
Well, that is great. We have had quite some conversations, and exactly the way that you described it, whether that is either a city or a region, that could be a state, or it could be in conjunction with another activity or another show that is not taking place at this moment. That was the whole concept anyhow, and we're very in tune with the need to do so. So thank you very much for basically confirming what the direction that we thought would be important. And it is the most important that you all, because we're working in this triangle of three pillars of the industry: the operators, the suppliers, and the DMOs, and that is either city or regional or even country. But this cooperation between the three will ensure that we get the most optimized product out there for our clientele internationally, and that starts local, and that is definitely true, and we will support it in any way we can. But thank you very much for your vote of confidence in this concept, because that is what it's going to take. We have to do it together. We don't have the budget to have it professionally organized. There is an enormous amount of volunteerism necessary, but if you look at this group, it is amazing what the effort is that is being put in. So it's very encouraging. So, and I, of course, I'm very, very encouraged what will happen midterm. I don't think there's anybody in this group that will doubt that this business and this volume that we had in the past will be back. The only uncertainty is when. Is it going to take 6 months, 12 months, 24? Just throw a number, that is unclear. But on the other hand, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. If we get back to 80% relatively quickly, then you can build from there again. And it is expected, of course, from what we see and what I hear from my clients, there's some concerns, of course, because of the economic impact in the countries of origin. It depends a little bit, as we said in the very beginning of the town hall, what the country is, how consumers would be affected. It stands to reason that there would be a negative component. Nobody can judge how negative, but that can be dealt with. We collectively can deal with that. That's but thank you again. Very much appreciated. Any other?
Peter, it's Jennifer Ackerson. How are you?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
Great. Thank you for all your great information, and hello, everyone. I just wanted to add to Peter's great comments about the Steps to Success Tourism Training Program. And yes, it took us a while to turn it into an online program, but a lot of the destinations and suppliers know about it. But just to say that you were mentioning it's affordable, it's very affordable, and we're willing to work with budgets because we know DMO budgets have been slashed in so many different ways. So we can, customize a program for any destination. And important for IITA is that it's revenue generating for the association. So that helps us all to maintain our status in the industry. And for the destination, it's, eventually international tourism is coming back, as we know, but now is like that void period where it is valuable to spend some time educating stakeholders and tourism suppliers on how to work with inbound operators to serve them for what they need from the industry, especially post-COVID. So we'll have a session on June 23rd, which is complimentary for anyone, but it's specially geared for DMOs just to get a walkthrough of the program. It'll be at 2 p.m. and Lisa and Joanna from my team will be sending out an email about that. So thank you, and we look forward to having more opportunities to share the knowledge with the rest of the country. Thank you.
And Jennifer, if I may, I think our cooperation with you is more relevant than ever. If you look at the amount of people that have been furloughed, or worse even, that have been laid off in the next few weeks, I think that things will ramp up quite quickly, as Peter said, and destinations in particular are going to be looking at international visitation as a key factor, and our educational effort, like we discussed in our conversation with Malcolm, but our educational efforts towards the DMOs and the destinations and how we work with you and your company in particular will be absolutely key to ramp up that effort.
That's great. And then one more thing is that during this period that we're all experiencing, we already had a scheduled Steps to Success training program for Capital Region. And we were questioning whether or not we thought we would be able to have it with people furloughed and all of that. But we actually had over 100, and I think 20 or 30 RSVP with about 100 attendees, some of who are furloughed, some of who are trying to figure out how to claw their way out of this. And so it is a really good time, and we can make it available to any destination who needs it. So thank you, Garrett.
Do we have any other comments? No, then I have to come to the point where I have to ask for money. and everybody realizes how important that is. We all know that the organization, as I indicated before, we disassociated ourselves from AI. We're running a very, very lean budget, and not only because of the enormous effort that Lisa and Kim are putting into the program, and we have so many volunteers in the executive committee, but also the board and regular members. It is very heartwarming to see what is necessary, what is being done, because it is necessary that we keep this organization going. We know that there are quite some challenges out there with membership. We have created a number of payment capabilities, but I implore that we will have to send out invoices pretty soon. This is a very bad time. We understand all this, but it is very important that we correct, and every membership counts, and our budget is extremely small. So anything that can be done is very important, and we will reach out to everybody and we'll see what can be done and what cannot be done. But if we want to keep this moving, this organization and all the kind of things, we have to meet a certain minimum number of expenses, which are extremely small given the impact that we have, fortunately, through our reach, even also with US travel and the National Park Service, and also our cooperation with Brand USA. But we will have to start sending out invoices, and we hope that we can correct that. Just that there is, to give a little bit of an insight in this, the way that we work, because we have to make sure that we only spend the money that we have available. Based on the money that is being received, we will be able to plan activities. So we cannot do it the other way around, because then there is so much uncertainty about dues coming in, that we have to take it the other way around. We say basically, okay, we receive X, and because of that we can fund these and these programs for the forthcoming months or something like that. So I hope that we can count on your support to the best of your abilities, and that we can keep this moving, and that we hopefully in a reasonable time are looking at the state of the industry that is much more healthy, and that we are returning to a certain sense of normal, and that we are able in a relatively short time to look back at how we collectively conquered this issue, and how we were able to stay relevant for all involved. So I hope that you can join us. I asked for the invoice before, so we paid our invoice already, so I hope that many of you can do that as well. And thank you very much for considering that. Are there any other questions that are not covered?
It's Craig Marshall up in Rochester, New York. Greetings, everybody. Just one thing, and I may have missed it. Is there an ongoing conversation with Brand USA to see if they are structuring or trying to get a little bit ahead in terms of some thought of what the messaging might be overseas?
There is cooperation with various parts of Brand USA, especially on the practical portion. You know, of course, all the what has happened in the past on matters like the self-drive programs, the itineraries which were developed and operated by IATA members. There are, you know, that our Kathy Delmonico was a board member. She retired from that position. At this moment, there is not a new assigned person from Brand USA. We are reaching out to them, and they have, of course, their limitations as well. But we are definitely trying to optimize whatever is there. So, but the promotions from Brand USA have been stopped at the moment, of course, because there are no trade promotions. We're reaching out to them to make sure that all the programs that were in place already will be effectuated after travel will start again. So yes, we're reaching out, but there are limitations on that side as well. There are furloughs, not necessarily at the Brand USA side, but we're working on this. Yeah, but it's going to be difficult to coordinate that. I can tell you that. Yeah.
Peter, if I may add to that, Greg, good to see you, my friend. Just to add to what Peter was saying, as you know, Noelle, who is our CEO, is a board member on Brand USA, and I'm sure that you've seen that she's been quite active with putting some comments out there, some opinion pieces out there, some of which I have shared also on my LinkedIn account. I can assure you that Noelle is driving that effort quite aggressively.
Thank you.
And as we mentioned, I think we have focused initially really making sure that we're keeping our voice heard on U.S. travel, making sure that they include the international visitation as part of the message that they are putting out there. They are talking ongoingly with Brand USA, but there is definitely a large amount of furloughs within that organization as well, working with a relatively skeleton crew. But we are making sure that our voice is heard, yes.
Thanks. Nice to see you too.
Any additional questions, covered or not covered, on subjects? Wow, we're doing good. We have 1 minute. It appears to be that we know what we're doing, right? If there are no further questions, then I would like to turn it back over to Lisa.
Thank you, Peter and Garrett. So appreciate you facilitating the conversation and your leadership during this time. And Gary, we hope that you are going to feel better very, very quickly. I do want to make an additional comment just about the dues, in that we will work with multiple variations, I guess, of payment plans. So do know that we're willing to work with you, because I think, as Peter said, the important thing is that we don't lose anybody. We want to keep this community as cohesive and strong as we possibly can while we get through this, waiting out the return of international travel. The other thing is that we continue to do webinars, and we will have member forums, and from time to time these town halls. So please let us know what you want. I know people, you get tired of perhaps Zoom all the time, but like Peter said, it is all we have right now. And we're trying to really focus on topics that are important to you and that are meaningful for your business. Doesn't mean you have to attend, obviously, every one, but if there is something specific that you're dealing with that you think we can get some expert speakers in to help us with, whether it's market or operations or economics or whatever, just let us know and we'll get to work on that, because that is where we can help the most right now without being able to see you and get together with you in person. Thank you all for coming, and I guess we'll wrap it up for the day. Let us know if you have any other thoughts, questions, comments, and we'll see you on the next one.